four, three, two. We're live, and today we've got a hot topic. So I suggest you get your cold apple juice, take a chill pill, and kick back because we're going to have a good time. But keep in mind, even though there's a ton of people that are like really upset, I mean, families are divided over this hot topic. But we're not going to get into the drama. And if anybody else gets into the drama, we're just going to punch that delete, delete, delete. So today, we're really only going to be talking about how the COVID regulations affect you if you decide to come to Costa Rica. We're going to have a great time updating you on all of that information. But remember, be respectful, have fun, and only, well, if you got nothing good to say, don't say anything at all. And if this is the first time that you've ever been here, well, we're the Loco Gringos. No. I'm Alan, and this is my beautiful co-host, Rebecca, and we're living in Costa Rica.
I think you had it right the first time.
Maybe so. I think there's a lot of people think that we're kind of cuckoo, but hey, we're having fun.
Cuckoo.
Huh?
We think we're cuckoo, much less everybody else.
I think you're right. So anyway, hey, there's a lot of stuff that we're going to talk about here, and I've got my notes, done a lot of research. And you know, there's some people that, hey, realistically, there's people that are scared. There's people canceling their trips or they're changing their mind. But hey, look, I've done some research. By the end of the day, you'll have a better idea of what's actually happening. And there's really nothing to be worried about, okay? Although we each have to do our own research, okay? And, you know, hey, you know, by the way, since I am talking about research, let me give you a secret on how I find so much information. Okay. Well, number one, I'm in Costa Rica, so it does help. And, you know, when you're at home and you're on the internet searching, you know, I'm an internet I'm a high-tech redneck, man. I mean, I love the internet. I love looking up stuff. And so I know how the algorithms work. And if you're in California and you're researching stuff, you generally are not going to find stuff about Costa Rica because the algorithm says, this guy's in California. He don't need that information. So let me tell you the number one secret of how you can get information about Costa Rica. So if you want to know that secret, hey, give me a thumbs up right now. Tell me you want to know my secret for finding out the legitimate information in Costa Rica. Are you ready? I got people say, yes. Okay. I use a VPN. That's a virtual private network. And when you use a VPN, you can that you're coming from Costa Rica or you whatever country you're in. And we use Surfshark. So yes, this live is partially endorsed by Surfshark. Now, I was using a different VPN, but I didn't like how it was working, okay? And a VPN actually protects your information because there's people out there that's always mining for your information, selling your data, okay? But the most important thing, when you're trying to find out about properties, you're trying to find out about houses to rent, you're trying to find out about land, you're trying to find out about the COVID mandates, well, then you need a good VPN. And I highly suggest look in the description below and you're going to see a link to surfshark.deals/OGH. That's off-grid homestead. And you can get that's a promo deal to get 83% off. And when you use that link, well, you get 3 months free. So, hey, absolutely check that out. You know, I encourage everybody to get a VPN. It's very, very affordable. Doesn't hardly, I think about $2 or $3 a month. But this way, it actually protects your computer and helps you to get all of the information you need about Costa Rica. The most important thing is it's very easy to set up. You don't have to be a high-tech redneck to do that. Easy to set up. And then once you do, you set the VPN to an IP address in Costa Rica, and that way it's very easy to get the information you're looking for. So make sure you go to the link in the description and click on that Surfshark link and make sure that you enter in that code OGH if you don't already see it up there, okay? So let's take a look at some of the facts here. So let's go over some of the facts that I talked about when I sent out that email, okay? Now, there's a lot of things that's been happening and a lot of mandates that's gone out. But here's number one. Write this down. Costa Rica does this a lot. They will announce a mandate. Okay, so they just announced a mandate that the all Costa Rican nationals have to get the vaccine if they're in the public sector. Okay, now they announce these things, but it's not actually legal until it actually gets published in this official newspaper called the La Gaceta. Okay, and so they can't enforce it until it actually comes out in that paper. They just announced it. It's not legal yet, but Costa Rica will announce something, and then they're going to see how much kickback they get. And then sometimes never, ever make it legal, okay? So anytime you hear about something, any announcements, it's just like they did about enticing all of the gringos to become residents here. Same thing with the digital nomad. They announced it, and it had been announced for months and months and months before it finally got worked out, finally got published in that official magazine, which then if it's published in that magazine, it's law. Okay. So it's real important that you remember that, because just because it's announced doesn't make it official. All right. Now, keep in mind here, as we take a look at these things, and I'm trying to keep my eye on, the chat box, and we're going to answer every single question. But remember, be respectful. If you got nothing good to say, don't say anything at all. That way we don't have to just delete you. Okay. So, but keep in mind, look, be respectful. Even Rebecca and I don't agree about everything, but we can agree to disagree.
Most of the time.
Most of the time. And then later when she finds out I'm right, because, I'm never wrong. I thought I was wrong one time, but I was only mistaken. Well, anyway. Anyway, hey, just agree to disagree and be respectful. And that's if everyone did that, it would be great.
Yeah,
so,
and I don't think that it's not that we don't want input or information. It's how it's presented. A lot of people want to criticize people who don't think the way that they do. There's a way of getting the truth out there without
being ugly.
Yeah, without bashing other people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Being ugly to other people.
Yeah, I mean,
disrespectful to other people.
And that's important. It's learning, let's say that if I don't want the vaccine, you don't have to call me stupid or call me an anti-vaxxer for not wanting it. Now if I ask your opinion on it and we can have a social, just a dialogue, that's great, right? You can give me your viewpoint. I can give you my viewpoint. At the end of the day, I might learn something, right?
Yeah, you can always learn from someone, even if they're doing something, even if you're learning how not to do something.
That's right. So if someone is...
Some people are learning from us.
Yeah, they don't do this because, man, he burned himself up. So you can always learn from something, even if you learn, hey, that's not how to do it. Okay. So anyway, a very valid point. So anyway, here's the most important thing. Costa Rica put in some mandates, and how does that affect you? Well, it absolutely does not affect you at all, because these mandates only affect the Costa Rican nationals. Okay. Now, obviously, common sense says, well, if they put this in place for the locals, it's only a matter of time before they put it in place for travelers or for tourists or for residents. Okay. And yeah, that is one possibility. Okay. But I've done some research, got some great news for you. Okay. So when we're looking at these particular mandates, it's not law yet until it gets published. But I've looked, and Costa Rica, although they're the first Latin America country to do such a thing, they're not the first country. There's tons and tons and tons of countries that have done what Costa Rica has done, and they did it long before Costa Rica. So, Costa Rica mandated vaccines for people that was in the healthcare industry or anyone that was taking care of the sick. Now, I like to kind of put myself in their shoes. If I were the government, this is what I think. I think Costa Rica is saying, what can we do to stop the spread of the virus? Well, if we make sure that all of our healthcare workers who are taking care of the sick, taking care of people who have the virus, if they're vaccinated, then they can't spread it. So I think that legitimately they're like, okay, let's try to stop the spread. Okay. Well, then all of a sudden the numbers just dropped, did really well, and they're thinking they did great. Then all of a sudden, there was this tremendous spike. Whether that was because of the Delta variant or what, I don't fully know. But Costa Rica is saying, okay, what other way can the virus come in? Oh, well, it's going to come in through all of the tourists. It's going to come in through all these different people working with the public. And if you're working with the public and the public comes in and they have it, you got it, you spread it. So Costa Rica mandates, if you're working in the public sector, you have to have the vaccine, and then takes it one step further and says, if you're a business owner in the private sector, you can, if you choose to, mandate and require your employees vaccinated. Now, I didn't like that part, okay? But you have to understand a little bit about the TICOs, and what I'm going to tell you to understand that probably won't happen, okay? And I've talked to a lot of professionals, and they're telling me the same thing. Yes, I own my own private business. Yes, I can require my employees to do so. But then I'm going to lose my employees, okay, that don't want to be vaccinated. And it's just going to cause a lot of problems. And I'd rather not have the problems, okay? So, here's what's really interesting about Costa Rica. It is a country similar to the United States where they do have rights. And if the Ticos feel like their rights are being abused, they have no problem striking. Now, I don't like the way they strike because when they strike against the government, it really affects everybody because they'll go to the bridges and they'll put up these barriers and you can't cross and it just halts traffic. Now, putting myself in their shoes, they're like, this is effective because we've stopped all transportation. We're stopping all the 18-wheelers that's transporting things. And so it's going to get the government's attention and they're going to listen to our demands. And most of the time, the government listen to their demands and they work it out and everybody's happier. Okay, so if Costa Rica was to ever try to mandate, and hey, who knows, we might see strikes because of this public sector mandate. I kind of doubt it, but if Costa Rica was to ever keep moving it forward, I just don't believe the TICO would stand for it. Okay, they don't think twice about holding a strike. And so they would strike and then it would never become law, in my opinion. Now, keep in mind, I tease about never being wrong. Hey, I've been wrong a lot of times, and I could be wrong this time. We're giving you our information based on our years of being here, based on our knowledge and experience, based on all of the research that I do. And I do a lot of research trying to give you the accurate information, okay? So, yep, they did these mandates, but it's not going to affect you. But your next question is, do you think, Alan, that it will affect us? And personally, I don't think it will. And let me tell you why, okay? So, your next question is, okay, well, I'm going to try to become a resident because they're passing all of these laws. They passed the digital nomad, incentivize people. They want you to become a resident. And they're doing all these things to give you tax incentives, reasons to move down here. Well, Costa Rica shoot themselves in the foot by saying to become a resident, you got to be vaccinated. They would lose all of these people with big money coming here. And Costa Rica is doing everything they can to boost the economy. Hey, if they can get a lot of foreigners here spending all of their retirement checks, spending all of their money here, it would boost the economy substantially. It would help a lot of the locals who actually get employed by these people. Okay. And so to require them to be vaccinated, which is one of the reasons they come here, is to leave the country and the drama that they're in because they don't want to be vaccinated. And Costa Rica is smart enough to say, hey, a lot of people are leaving their home country because their country is requiring them to be vaccinated, but we're not. Okay. They understand that. So because of what I see them doing, will they, for tourists and gringos or foreigners coming here, highly doubtful. Anything is possible. Okay. And we'll talk about why it could be possible in a moment. Okay. So remind me about the IMF in a moment. Now, the next question is, well, What about people that are leaving? Okay, in other words, you come here to be a resident, but you still have to make that 90-day border run, okay? Because we know that even though you apply to become a resident, you get what's called that golden ticket. Well, that's great as long as you don't have to drive. And if you got that golden ticket, you don't have to stamp out till you get approved. But in order to legally drive, you still have to stamp out every 90 days. It's always been that way. A lot of departments in Costa Rica don't talk to the other departments over here. So the left hand doesn't talk to the right hand, causes a lot of issues, causes a lot of problems. Okay. So I got this golden ticket. I don't have to stamp out, but then I can't legally drive. So then I have to stamp out. It's a pain in the butt, but it's part of it. So the question is from one subscriber that said, well, hey, Alan, you have to go back to the United States, and the United States is requiring you to be vaccinated. Well, I don't have to go back to the United States. If you're here trying to get your residency, or you're here just as a perpetual tourist, you can stamp out every 90 days. You can go to whatever country you want to. Okay, we typically we go to Panama. It's very easy. We'll go and stamp out of Costa Rica, stamp into Panama. We'll go shopping for a half a day, and then we come back, okay? Real simple. Panama has changed some of their things, and so now Panama is requiring a vaccination. Not really. And that kind of goes back to what you were saying, how they present the information. Oh, to get into Panama, you got to have a vaccination. No, you don't. They want you to, but if you're not vaccinated, you can still go in. You just have to be quarantined for 72 hours in a hospital of their choosing, meaning you're going to spend a lot of money.
Not a hospital.
Oh, not a hospital, a hotel. Thank you for that correction. I'm never wrong. I was only mistaken.
You were saying how the things changed for Panama, and that's one reason why don't just listen to like our videos or some other people's videos or some Facebook group or something like that before you like information for going into a foreign country. You need to go to the U.S. embassy sites for those countries to get the most updated information, because I'm telling you, one day it was okay, you could go into Panama with no problem. The next day, without hardly any warning that we knew of, because it wasn't in the news here, and we don't often check the news for Panama, we started having people say, we tried to go into Panama and they wouldn't let us, and then the news gradually was coming out. So anyway, my point is, check a reliable source. Not that we're not reliable, but there's a timing difference. We're making this today. The law could change tomorrow. So really, I mean, literally, it can change.
And of course, what Rebecca is saying is, hey, if you're from Canada, well, then check with the Canada embassy, and you can find out, what are the requirements to enter into Costa Rica. Our forum, we try to keep it updated as much as is possible, but we're human and we can't update it for every single country, right? So it's important to be able to do that.
Yeah, and being from the U.S., I just assume that other countries have similar websites, but maybe they don't. I'm used to just going to the U.S. Embassy website and they update all the information. But you know what? Some countries may not
have that. So so it's important to do your research, and that again is where a VPN would help you to get the most accurate information. Okay, now something that is important is like we were saying, going into Panama, people are saying, you got to be vaccinated, Well, that obviously is not a problem if you choose to be vaccinated, right? But that's not the whole story, okay? The whole story is, they want you to be vaccinated, but if you're not, you got to be quarantined. The same thing with the United States, I call it fear mongering, okay? Where you see the headlines, United States requires vaccine before coming back home. No, they don't. Finish reading the article. But a lot of people do that. They do that with our videos. They see the title and then they start writing all of this trash in the comments. They didn't even watch the video, okay? The headlines are there to grab your attention, but you got to read it. So if you don't read it, the truth of the matter is, United States changed it, but they didn't require you to be vaccinated. They just simply said, if you're not vaccinated, well, now you have to have a COVID test within 24 hours when it used to be 48 hours. Woohoo! Big change,
Yeah,
right?
now that's for U.S. citizens.
That's for U.S. citizens.
I'm not sure what the requirements are now for foreigners going into the United States.
Right.
But like if we wanted to go back to the United States, that would be the
Yeah, if we wanted
you
to go
either
back.
to present your not your passport, your vaccination,
Your proof of vaccination or your test.
Your test. Yeah.
And this time within 24 hours. Well, what if I don't want the test? No big deal. Why don't I just stamp out in Panama? Why don't I just fly to Mexico? You know, you can go anywhere you want to renew your passport, okay?
Now, Panama's requiring the test.
Panama is requiring the test.
But
Did I say Panama or did I say Mexico?
You said Panama and Mexico. But as far as I know, last I checked, Mexico does not require the COVID test to enter.
Yeah. So, you know, and here's something that's important to know. And I see in here, you know, a comment. Canada is pushing the jab like mad, okay, without any scientific reason. And there's a lot of countries that are really pushing. And hey, you know, whether there's anything political behind it or not, I don't know. We're not going to get into the drama of it. But there are a lot of countries that are encouraging you to get the vaccine, but they're not requiring you to. Matter of fact, all of my research, listen close. This is important. In all of my research, there are two countries and one other place that is actually requiring everyone to be vaccinated. You have no choice, okay? And I'm going to mess this up, okay? Because the two countries that are requiring everyone, you don't have a choice to be vaccinated, is Turkmenistan and Tajikistan. They're two very dictatorship countries.
I've never heard of those two countries.
That's right. I never heard of them either until today when I did my research, you know, and I was finding out. So those two countries are dictatorship countries. They've got nothing to lose, okay, except someone going over there and maybe trying to take them out for that, okay, and then they take over and become the new dictator, okay. So there's two dictator countries that are requiring everyone, you have no choice to be vaccinated. And the third, well, it's not a country, it's the Vatican City, requiring everyone to be vaccinated, okay. In all of the world, there's only three. Now, there's a lot of countries that are putting in these mandates, just like I said. Hey, Canada's putting in these mandates. The United States trying to put in mandates too, you know. So it is kind of nuts. You know, we see a lot of crazy things happening.
What about in Australia? They're arresting people for not being vaccinated unless the stories that I'm seeing on the international news. You know, that's another thing. A lot of people believe a certain way because they are only watching certain news medias, maybe in their particular country. But if you want to find out more, watch the international news. You know, go to the news stations of other countries. So that's what I do.
You know, it is important to really do your research, okay? And don't watch just the news from your country. You know, we like to look at what's happening in other countries and find out information from them. Because I like to, you know, if you watch any kind of inspirational stuff, then you've heard people say constantly, knowledge is power. Now, I've never believed that. And the reason I don't believe that is because it doesn't matter how much knowledge you have. If you don't use it, it's worthless. So I've always said that applied knowledge is power. So you have to gain that knowledge. But if you don't know that there's a remedy for a snake bite and you get bitten by a snake, then you're going to die. But if you know that there's a remedy for a snake bite and you happen to have it close at hand and you apply that knowledge, well, then guess what? You can save your life. And that's true for almost any single thing. So take the time to become knowledgeable, and you don't have to get into the Facebook madness where everybody is calling each other names. That's ridiculous. You're going to die. You're going to die. That's retarded. Come on. You know, hey, it's a personal choice, okay, And I fought for that right. Okay. And I think everyone should have that personal choice. Now, like Rebecca was saying, there's a lot of countries, it just seems like it's going nuts. Australia, Canada, you know, uh,
U.S.
the U.S. is going nuts. The Philippines. I know, I personally know some people in the Philippines, although they're not required and it's not mandatory. If you don't get the vaccination, you practically can't even go in your own yard. So, some countries are making it so difficult that you almost have to get the vaccination. So then you got to make the decision is what to do about that. Okay. And, so the next question is, well, is Costa Rica going to follow suit? Are they just going to make it so difficult that you're going to be forced to get it? And like I said earlier, I don't think so, simply because I don't think the people would stand up for it. They would get out there and strike, get out in the streets, and it's illegal to block traffic, but nobody enforces it. And that brings me up to another topic. Too many times, and many times, oftentimes, Costa Rica will announce a law, and it's not official till it gets published. And then when it does get published, well, it's a new law, but then there's nobody to enforce it. In Costa Rica, they just don't have enough police. And for whatever reason, a lot of things simply are not enforced. Okay. So that's just something you need to know. Okay.
That's one of the reasons why, the times that we've been burglarized, we've reported it and nothing happens. Am I right?
That's right.
And so a couple of times we didn't even report it because it just does no good.
Yeah, it's pointless.
I mean, I know that sounds bad, but being the language barrier, we did report it when we had someone to help us go and make the file, report at the station. But when we were in Potrero and we didn't have anybody there to help us, we were like, you know what, it's no use.
Yeah, it's pointless.
They're not going to do anything about it anyway.
And you have to understand that, when we burglarize, it's petty theft.
Yeah.
They stole some tennis shoes and a hiking boots that was sitting outside.
Propane tank.
Yeah, propane tank. So, petty theft is very common in Costa Rica. And here's how, now this is just my opinion. Here's how the police look at it. Hey, gringo, you got enough money? Buy you another one. We got more important stuff to do than chase down some knucklehead that stole your shoes. Don't want your shoes stole? Put them in the house.
And of course, that's a generalization. And we know that stuff like that happens in the U.S. and I'm sure other countries too, because they just don't have, a big police force. But we find that with traffic violations, and we say that because we see people driving all the time with vehicles that were like, I know they did not pass the Retivi.
No way.
So how are they on the road? So, it's that kind of thing. But just so you know, I mean, there's good and bad things about, you kind of want things to be enforced at some point, things that like murders and stuff like that, you want them to investigate. But there's been some complaints from people that even murders are not investigated properly. But,
I actually, in doing all of my research today, came across an article on a reputable site that talked about missing tourists, okay, and how, it's so underreported how some of these tourists just go missing, okay? And a lot of times it's women that go missing, but it's not always women. It's young guys that go missing. And, and it's like nothing happens. It's underreported and the police don't do anything about it. And, well, I don't know. They're just undermanned, okay? So, hey, common sense prevails in a lot of that, okay? If I was a young woman, I would never go anywhere by myself, okay? But hey, I know some women think I'm tough enough. Ain't nobody gonna mess with me. Well, this ex-military person wasn't tough enough and disappeared, okay? So things do happen and you just have to use some common sense. Don't leave your tennis shoes outside. Don't leave your hiking boots out if you don't want to donate them, right?
Right. Don't hang your purse on the back of your chair and not even, pay attention to who's passing, things
Yeah.
like that. Just common sense things, just like you were saying. I feel safe in a lot of areas, but there are a lot of areas in the country that I don't feel safe. That's just like any other country. So you have to just use your common sense.
That's right. So, a couple of quick comments in here. So, looking at some of the comments here, and that's the majority of the stuff. And we'll continue to talk some more here. But I want to go through and answer some of these questions. So, someone said, "Well, how about Nicaragua?" And in case you missed that, hey, as far as we know, you can go into Nicaragua easily. You can go into Nicaragua and back. It's not our destination of choice because it's so far from us now. But hey, when we stamp out, we'll either fly into another country or go to Nicaragua. So yeah, Nicaragua is still very easy. Panama is easy if you're vaccinated, okay, and know what to do. And
and you have to your vaccine papers. I've heard some people say,
well, you do have, if you're vaccinated, you got to have proof of that vaccination.
Yeah, and some countries only accept certain vaccines.
That's right. And if
Costa Rica was experiencing a little bit of problem with that, I think from Panama, because Costa Rica is giving two kinds of vaccines. Was it Pfizer and
AstraZeneca or something?
Yeah, and Panama didn't accept one of those. So anyway, you got to make sure not just that you have your vaccine papers,
but that where you're going accepts that particular type.
Yeah.
Now, if they don't accept that particular type, then you still have to show a negative COVID test, for that particular country. So keep in mind, all of these countries have their different requirements. And as for Panama, if you don't have one of their approved vaccinations, then you still have to show a negative vaccination and be quarantined for 72 hours in a hotel of their choosing. So it is different in different places. Now, here's what's real important, because I announced what are the COVID entry requirements for Costa Rica. Now, this is important, okay? Because a lot of people are getting some bad news. Costa Rica says, I don't care where you're from, crawl out of the ditch. You can come to Costa Rica. We're not going to require you to have any kind of test. We're not going to require you to be vaccinated. We only require you to have traveler's insurance if you're not vaccinated. Now, if you're vaccinated, can show proof of your vaccination, great. You don't even have to buy traveler's insurance. There's benefits of being vaccinated. You can save money. But if you're not vaccinated, buy traveler's insurance, and you don't even have to have a COVID test, okay? Great. Come into Costa Rica, and you have to fill out the health pass within 72 hours. And it's very easy to fill out the health pass. It's just a list of questions, and we have a detailed video on our channel explaining how to fill out the health pass. Make sure you go to the link up here so that you can find out how to do that. Super, super simple. And I really put it out in plain English for you. Okay. So
and they take your temperature when you.
Now, you know what? I'm glad you brought that up. A lot of countries have been trying to analyze what in the world did Costa Rica do to get the numbers right. So Costa Rica really did a great job with this whole COVID pandemic issue. So a lot of countries have been researching. Now, what did Costa Rica do? Well, the only thing that I saw Costa Rica do, is that they made it mandatory for everybody to have masks. They did the whole social distancing thing. I'm talking about sinks overnight. Sinks was up in every business. So every business you went to, you washed your hands. I never washed my hands so much in my life. And I'm a clean freak, okay? I like to be clean. But guess what? You wash your hands, go in, come out, go to the next business, wash your hands, go in, come out. And of course, most places are taking your temperature. So I think that's probably better than any COVID test, because you get a COVID test, but then by the time you get to where you're going, well, now you've contracted the virus. And so, Costa Rica takes your temperature. They take your temperature, and I don't know what happens. I'm waiting for the day that I go to Walmart and I see someone get a temperature and it's spiked. Do alarms go off? Woo, woo, woo. Do people in white clothes come out and attack them? I don't know.
I'm sure they're just for not allowed to enter the store.
You think it's that simple?
I guess we've never seen anybody
Yeah, you
have
know.
anything but a normal temperature.
I was
so-
thinking maybe, these people in these chemical-free white suits come out and scrub them all down with scrubbing bubbles and then send them on their way. I don't know.
I don't know. It's possible.
It's possible. Anyway, they do take temperatures, and I've never seen anyone get turned away. But of course,
But that's a good idea, being that that's a real indication that you're sick and infectious is if you have a temperature, and then not allowing the person to go into enclosed space where other people are shopping and so forth. That's bound to have been
that would have been a
good-
very good way to keep the numbers down, right? So, a matter of fact, in all my research, I think there was 2 countries, and I think it was Venezuela, and Costa Rica that really did a great job on keeping their numbers down.
Can't be Venezuela.
I can't remember what country it was. Okay, so
it was Sweden or Switzerland.
it was a
or-
small country, but I can't remember what it was. But anyway, it wasn't important for me to write down. I just remember that countries all over were just following Costa Rica and wanting to know what did they do, okay? And Costa Rica really could have done better because at one point in time, in order to help people, they took in a bunch of Nicaraguans that was at the border that was sick, and then it really caused a spread.
Yeah.
So they could have done a lot better if they wouldn't have taken them in. But hey, they were being helpful, okay? So I think that's important.
They also did the driving restrictions.
I'm glad you said that.
I don't know how helpful that was, but
I agree.
maybe it did. And they did the things like closing businesses. Everything closed down by 8 o'clock. Everything was
A lot of
closed.
things
Yeah,
closed
and
really
it
early.
changed. It
You know,
got real. It was really early at the beginning, and then as the numbers got better and things got better, then they slowly went later and later. Where that you couldn't be on the road, you couldn't be in bars, restaurants, anything like that. They closed on the weekends, I think, for a while. All
Yeah.
the restaurants, everything was closed on
You
the
know,
weekends.
not only restaurants, but the public parks, anywhere, the beach, anywhere where massive numbers of people would congregate, they shut it down, especially the bars, the bars and churches, right? They shut them all down. I don't know why they shut down the churches, because there's not that many churches that have a lot of people in Costa Rica, but they did shut down all of the churches, bars and beaches and parks. Okay. And, so that made sense. So when I look at all of that stuff, they shut down the bars, they shut down the beaches, when they shut, anything with lots of people. Well, then it makes sense. If I put myself in the government shoes, it kind of makes sense to me, the mandates that they did, healthcare workers, I think the mandates were simply, here's what we're going to do to make sure that everybody keeps looking at us as being the country that did it right. And that's what I really think is happening.
Very possibly.
Now,
And what I found is even though everybody was tired of the driving restrictions and things being closed way before they opened them, they did, when they saw that things were getting better and the numbers were down, they began to open things up, quickly. And so things kind of got pretty much back to normal, except for some driving restrictions and wearing the mask. And so, people could go in the parks and you could go, the whole
yeah,
thing.
and right now things really are getting what's more and more like normal. It almost is back to normal, with the exception you see everybody wearing this mask, okay, and some social distancing,
And still
okay,
hand washing.
yeah. So
And
yeah.
social distancing, of course. In the checkout lines at the grocery, you have to stand, on the little.
they got little markers, So,
at the bank.
but there's one other topic as to why I think that Costa Rica will never make it mandatory for the public, even their own people or the tourists, okay, that are coming in here. Like I said, Costa Rica's done a lot of great things to boost the economy. They'd be shooting themselves in the foot to require vaccination. Number 2, there's an election coming up, presidential election, I think, in February. No party wants to touch that topic. It's too hot a topic. Can you imagine anyone running for president saying, we're going to require everyone to be vaccinated? Killed yourself. You ain't getting elected, right? So it's a hot topic. I don't think anybody is going to really touch this topic, and everyone's going to try to take things kind of slow. And really, does it work? Doesn't work. I'm not here to argue that. It's a personal choice whether you want to be vaccinated, not vaccinated. And I think the government has to do something in order to try to keep the general public safe. I think that's what they're doing. Going back to what I said, remind me earlier, the IMF, rumor has it. Is it true? Not true. They borrowed a lot of money from the IMF. And so now they're required to do some things. Will they get some sort of pressure to do a few things? I don't know. I don't know how all that works. I'm not in politics, okay? Don't like politics, but I do enough research to find out what I can. So I really think Costa Rica is pretty smart in what they're doing. And keep in mind, it's kind of like we've told you before. Our agenda is to give you the best information possible, okay? We would love for you to come to Costa Rica and do what we're doing, but we don't benefit anyway monetarily for you to come. Now, there's channels that do benefit. There's nothing wrong with that. There's channels that educate you about Costa Rica. They want you to buy a tourism package. There's channels that want you to move and they'll help you. That's awesome. That's great. We have zero agenda other than we love what we're doing. We love to share it with you. And we hope that in sharing what we do, then, you guys will thank us in the form of joining up as a premium member, because that actually helps offset all of our costs to do what we're doing. Premium member in the form, hey, that's a whole whopping 33 cents a day, $10, hitting that dollar sign in the chat box and donating. All of that helps us in a great, great way. Even if you give $1 here, $10 there, $100, every little bit makes a huge difference to us, because, we survive because we work online. Some of that stuff did take a big, big hit. But, the most important thing is we share what we share, and we hope you greatly appreciate what we do. We work hard at giving you the most accurate information possible with zero agenda attached to that information. Okay. So enough about that. We greatly appreciate your support financially. We greatly appreciate any supports whenever you hit those sponsored links, because when you hit those sponsored links, then we get supported by the people, because you purchased a product via our recommendation, and we only want to recommend stuff that we actually use or believe is going to be good for you. Okay. So with that said, let me take a look at some of the questions right here.
Yeah. So while you're doing that, something that Alan mentioned earlier is about how Costa Rica will announce a law, but it's not actually law until it gets published. Well, part of that is because there's a process for something to become a law. So it'll get announced because it's going through its voting process. It has to go through, I think, 2 different sessions of where people discuss, they bring opposing and supporting information, and then they vote. And then it goes to another chamber, let's say, and the process is done again before it ever becomes law, and then the president also has to sign off on it. So that's why things are announced, but then don't become law until it's published, because there is a process in that. And, we talk about the freedom to choose. And I know a lot of people think, okay, well, it should be mandated. The vaccine should be mandated. It should be required. And that's because they believe a certain way. And so, it would be to people who believe that way, then a mandate, people getting vaccinated against their will seems like a good thing to them. However, that's because you're agreeing with that particular subject. I think about in China, when, I don't remember how many years ago, I think they've since changed the law, but I think it's like about 20 years ago, there was a period of time in China where their people were only allowed to have 1 child. And that was it, 1 child per family. That was, law. and people were, put in jail. Whatever the consequences were serious. If someone got pregnant with a second child, they were forced to have an abortion. They had to abort the child. They were only allowed to have one child. And, that's extreme. I just, but that was that country and that was their laws. Well, I don't want to live in a country where the government can make law something like that. You know, what if they decided, what, people spend too much money on pets, so you're only going to be allowed to have one pet? That wouldn't go over too well with a lot of people, but it could be enforced. You know, what if in the country you live in they decided, our country's getting too crowded, so we're only going to let every other family have a child? I mean, you could go on and on with the examples. But to me, it's never good when the government
steps in and makes choices for you.
Yeah, it's okay whenever you agree. But what you have to remember is if you open the door to that, then the next law you may not agree with, and then you're stuck because it's already become accepted practice, and a lot of things are being done in the name of science and in the name of proof and evidence, but not all the science is being looked at, like the results of studies and so forth. People, we all know that if somebody starts saying something and they say it long enough and enough people say it
becomes fact, whether it's true or not.
So if people started saying that, dogs are carriers of some terrible disease, and they have some studies, and so now nobody can have a dog. And then you find out, if you listen to other news, that that's not even true. Some other country in Africa and in Europe, they all still have their dogs. There's nothing happening.
So bottom line, it's important to educate yourself. Here's a really, really good example. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question, and I don't think I've ever asked you guys this question before, and I want you to put your answer in the chat box as quickly as you can, okay? So if you're outside and you look in the sky and you see a bunch of vultures circling. Well, when you see vultures circling, what does that mean? Okay, put your answer in the chat box, okay? You walk outside, you see a bunch of vultures and they're circling way up in the sky over a field. What does that mean? I want to see your answer in the chat box, okay? So it's important to educate yourself. Don't go looking on Google right now. Give me your answer. What have you been told about the vultures that circle in the sky? With another topic, right? And so answers are already coming in. Something is dead on the ground. Something is dead. Something is dead. So I'm getting some comments. Anything else in there, right? Dead or dying animal or a human, okay? So keep giving me the comments, okay? Put that in there. Why is it vultures are circling, okay? Now, before I give you the answer to that, okay, how many of you heard that people only use 10% of their brain? And if you would just really focus, you'd be amazed at what you can do if you would use more than 10% of your brain. How many of you have heard that story? Okay. So everybody, or of the people that have answered, everybody has said the same thing. Okay. That something is dead there. Well, take time to do the research and you're going to find out that vultures are not circling because there's something dead there. But that was something that was started years and years ago, and you saw it in the movies and the old cowboys and westerns. The guy's out there struggling in the desert. He looks up and he sees the vultures and says, "I ain't dead yet." Well, that's the furthest thing from the truth. Vultures are circling simply because they like to soar. and they're simply just soaring on thermals, and they're just soaring from one place to the other. And in Costa Rica, you see a lot of vultures soaring.
They catch a thermal, it dies down, they catch another
They
thermal.
catch another thermal. So it's never because vultures smell something, and it's never because they're looking for dead animals. Now, yes, I have gone and seen a dead cow, and there's vultures eating them, but every time I've seen a dead cow or a dead animal on the side of the road, I've looked up and never seen vultures circling, telling everybody that, look,
No,
free dinner.
They're not circling, they're eating. And if you go and disrupt them, they'll fly away.
And then they come back.
But that's such a good example, because that's become a belief.
It's become a fact,
and
hasn't
it? Because of movies, and nobody ever corrected that. I grew up thinking that,
And I'm somebody that I like to search, and I thought about it one day, and I says, that don't make no sense. So man, I started searching on Google, and I started finding out.
Well, and we noticed through
observation, and I'm a hang glider pilot. Okay, don't have a hang glider here, but I've flown, and I love to fly from a thermal to thermal. And I did a lot of flying when I was in Japan. I loved it. Okay, I hope that one day to fly again. So I can see why vultures like to soar in the air from thermal to thermal. Hey, it's just fun. Okay, so when you see vultures up there flying, and the next time you can say, oh, Alan taught me something. He's like, there ain't nothing dead down there. I'd challenge you to go look for that dead thing, okay? And if you find it, let me know. So it's important to educate yourself, because applied knowledge is power, and you'll be amazed at what you will learn if you take the time to educate yourself.
Well,
and keep in mind, not everything that you see on Google is true, because I can type up all kind of stuff on Google, and I can have it ranking in a few days. It says Alan and Rebecca are the wealthiest, kindest, most generous people in Costa Rica. It would be a lie, but it would sure sound good.
Yeah, it reminds me, when we were young, the only fake news or false stories was in the National Enquirer. Bigfoot was seen, all those different things, vampire, whatever.
That was the fake news.
Bad boy, Wolfman. All you stand in the checkout line, and
you read the headlines of the National Enquirer,
and we would laugh about that. But your mom believed his mom believed.
I worked in a grocery store when I was 12 years old. So once a week I'd have to bring Mama a National Enquirer, a Tab soda, and a Hershey bar. And I'm like, Mama, that don't make no sense. You got a Hershey bar. Why are you drinking a Tab? I saved all them calories on a Tab. I can reward myself with a Hershey bar. And I said, Mama, Bigfoot did not rape a hiker. Okay, that's not true. They wouldn't print it in the news if it wasn't true. I said, Mama, that's just a gossip paper. It's not true. But Mama believed everything that was in that paper. Yeah.
So when we were young, that was pretty much the only, for sensationalism, news that really wasn't true. But nowadays, that is all over the place. I mean, and we work online, and so he's been into some marketing. He does a lot of marketing, and there is so much unethical marketing.
Okay,
there's even a way that you can make money by republishing news stories. Okay, they don't have to be true.
No.
But they have these websites that you just post it. You don't have to research it. You don't have to do anything.
You could just rewrite the story in your own words.
Yeah, they even have software that will rewrite the story, changing up the words so that
it's unique in itself.
So that Google won't recognize it as a
rewritten. Yeah.
Yeah, like when you plagiarize or whatever. But the danger with that is, what if the original story? What if the writer, didn't do their research? What if it's just made up? So
That's right.
Anyway, you can imagine. I mean, we see it. We see it in marketing because we know the behind the scenes. Take this pill and you won't have to change your, what you eat. You won't have to add any exercise and you will lose 50 pounds. they are so convincing and so believable, and so many people spend so much money, but it's just not true. And I guess
Yeah. Well, you got to do the research, and you got to use a little bit of common sense. Brian brings up
what I was going to say is, you have to, even in doing your research, you have to be careful. If you're doing your research in the National Enquirer,
you're not going to get
telling everybody
that Bigfoot raped somebody, or there was a bat child, So, and Brian brings up a good thing. How many of you believed in pro wrestling? My brother did. I mean, that dude wanted to watch pro wrestling all the time. I'm like, that's fake. No, it ain't. No, it ain't. So
yeah, so many people believed it. I had an aunt that, boy, she was so into it. And now people know that it is almost like a soap opera. It's put on. Sorry to burst your bubble if you're still believing in it, but it's entertainment value only. So and what you were saying about using 10% of your brain, I wish I would have read the story, read the information about that, the news about that. Okay, that was. Do you recall what year that was? That false
thing happened. I think it was put out like in the 40s or 50s. I
think the 50s.
And it was some big CEO.
Propaganda.
Yeah, it was propaganda to try to get their employees to work harder.
Yeah, so they began to tell them, they came up with this wonderful campaign.
It was a great marketing campaign, right?
They said, they told everybody that you were only using 10% of your brain. You had another 90% that you needed to tap into. You just needed to focus, you needed to try harder, you needed to learn more, and so forth. And by the time I was growing up, that was presented to me as truth. I even heard a preacher say that not too terribly long ago, in a sermon, mentioned that we're only using 10% of our brain, and it's not true.
Right.
You can look up now the campaign, who came up with it, and how it was presented in the United States, and the whole history of it. But nobody knows the truth now. A lot of people are still believing that we only use 10% of our brain, because
that's right.
There was a big push
to get people to work harder.
There was a big push in getting the information out about that we only using 10% of our brain. But when the truth was never pushed, the correction was never pushed. It's just like in the newspapers or the news programs, they might say something wrong about a person, give misquote someone, or give some misinformation about someone, and so then they get a suit brought against them. Well, you never hear the retraction, the front page for the false, the accusation. But later, when the person wins their lawsuit and they get their defamation of character lawsuit, the newspaper might publish an article this big on the last page that says, our apologies, our correction, but it's too late. The public doesn't know the truth now.
Absolutely. And big shout out to the movers who hit that $sign and donated. We greatly appreciate everybody, and especially always want to say thank you for our premium members of the forum. And while I'm on that topic, this week I am doing some changes because I found a much better platform that's going to make it way more easier for everyone to be interactive inside the forum. And so I'm going to be making some changes in that forum, sending out emails so that you can get a new username and password inside the new forum. It's probably going to be a week or two, but I'm really excited about that because it's going to give you the ability to find out more information. I'm going to be able to put more things in there, and it's just going to be a valuable resource, okay? But it's kind of like Kelly M said. Says it's kind of like the ABC News showing a firefight in Syria when in actuality it was just a video from a gun show in Kentucky.
Yeah.
And
that kind of stuff happens. That's what I say. The days of Walter Cronkite are over. They're listening to the 5 and 6 o'clock news and listening to Walter Cronkite give the news. That just doesn't, that level of integrity doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I can remember when, I think it was Dan Rather. I don't remember exactly, but I think it was Dan Rather. He was one of the first people that gave misinformation, and it was a big deal. But then gradually, it just started where, I mean, there's just no accountability. Like Kellyanne was saying, we often see some picture that has been doctored, altered.
There's always
They
something,
change a clip, they take a clip
and it
a
came from
piece here and a
something
piece
else.
here and put it together. Because of technology, they can do all kinds of things.
Yeah.
So
Now back to the questions here. Bill asked, "Is the Tico Times a good source of the local news in Costa Rica?" And yes, it is. So the Tico Times is a good source. Matter of fact, whenever I get the new platform, I'm going to put in the platform in that recommended section there or places of where I get some of my news from, so that some of my news sources, because I like to try to get as much of the news as quick as I can. And then I like to turn around and share it with you guys, because, hey, I know some of you just don't have the time to go and do that research. And hopefully, I research and I try to give you the accurate news. I try not to repeat, I don't get my news from the National Enquirer, so don't worry about any kind of baddie stuff coming to you, right? I try to give you legitimate information, okay? Now, if I haven't answered your question, now's a good time to put your question down at the bottom of the chat, because there's a lot of chats, and I greatly appreciate all of the chats. People are chatting back and forth, and they're helping one another. Really, really love that. And look, kudos to the folks that came out and helped me test out the new camera and the new software that we're using right now for the live stream. And hey, real quick, I'd like to say, hey, let me know. I know I'm always loud. Y'all probably never have a problem hearing me, but are y'all having any problem hearing Rebecca in our audio today? How is that sounding? Because we are using a new software and camera right now. There's several people are recommending some different sites in the chat box. So of what they use to get their news source. Okay.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, and Keto does mention something that, hey, depending on the news source, some news sources get all of their information from the same place, and they're just reading a script. Okay. And so you do want to be careful where you're getting your news from. Okay.
Yeah. It's almost as scripted as a Days of Our Lives, as the soap operas.
Yeah.
It's that scripted.
Oh, look, I'm glad to hear that. SLM says that picture is actually better. That's good to hear.
Oh, good.
I'm surprised.
We have our camera in a different location, so a lot of time I don't know where to look exactly. I don't have to look right at the camera.
Yeah, just look right here. So matter of fact, hey, I bet y'all can't see that. I was going to show you the camera, but I can't show you a camera of the camera. But hey, there's our trusty, my best friend Nikki. She's on her little couch right there. See, so it's kind of nifty because I've got this little. It's actually a camera that sits on top of your monitor, and it's really handy. It's a new camera that I've had and just haven't really tried to use out, and YouTube had an update, so it gave me the ability to use this and give it a try out. So I'm really glad of that. And so people are saying they can hear Rebecca just fine, so that is good. Okay. Yeah, some people are saying, hey, I tried to avoid mainstream media, and that's a hot topic. Like Rebecca was saying, it's so hard to find. There's so much fake news out there. And sometimes I think you get more reliable news if you do stay away from mainstream media.
Well, you know what I do to see exactly that, because I'm wanting to know where the people that believe the way they do, where are they getting this information from? So I've, over the last probably 2 years, I've been listening to what you might call mainstream media, and then other media sources like outside of the country, and maybe Christian media sources and so forth. People that aren't, sites that aren't so concerned with the ratings and aren't so politically linked. And it is unbelievable the difference. Now I see why they think the way that they do, because if I listened to only that particular station or stations, I would have a whole different viewpoint. So, like there'll be something going on. I say I hate to use real examples,
Yeah.
but
So
because we don't want to get into the politics of it. But let's say there was a big fire somewhere. Well, one media station will be just praising how the fire was not bad and it was put out quickly, right away, whatever. Then you listen to another station and it's like, no, there was a lot of devastation. There was a lot of, the people worked really hard and did get it put out, but there was a lot of damage. And it was started by somebody who was being negligent. That's just a example, but you get the point.
Yeah.
So
there's
just don't limit yourself to don't be so trusting of one or two stations.
Yeah, it's good to educate yourself. I have family members that have taken the vaccine. Rebecca and I have not taken the vaccine as of yet, and we're not standing one way or the other. It's a personal choice, and we won't go into it. But there are families that are just divided because daddy got the vaccine and the grown children didn't get the vaccine, and they're fighting back and forth. They can't ever come together and have a conversation because they're fighting over this. Come on, people. Don't let the world cause the country and the whole world to be divided into separate types of people. We are all people, and we all have one thing in common. We all bleed red, okay? And you know what? We're all people. I don't think our country has ever recently been prejudiced. Yet you see so much prejudice stuff going on, but it's been pushed by media, in my opinion, when I'm thinking, I'm not seeing any of this, So it all goes back to advertising and different agendas. I know from being a marketer, I don't do unethical advertising, but I see advertising, and I'll see them advertising a drug, advertising a food, advertising an herb, saying it's the best thing in the world. And it might be nothing, okay, but advertising and getting people to believe that advertising makes money, and money is where it's at. So people, if the government says that coffee is evil and keeps pushing that coffee is evil and coffee is evil, coffee is evil, coffee is evil, then the majority of the world is going to think coffee is evil, when in reality there's nothing wrong with it, okay? So you have to really understand, well, how much of that is just marketing, okay?
Yeah.
So
think about like the supplement industry, what we discovered by being in that, selling supplements. Well, we did have a good supplement, but how easy, it wasn't something we manufactured. It wasn't something we had any kind of control over as far as the guidelines, what went into it, anything like that. We came up with the name, the label, for marketing purposes, made it very attractive. And there were certain guidelines that we had to follow as to what you could say. You couldn't say that it would cure cancer, or
you couldn't say it was a miracle drug.
So they did have guidelines for that we had to follow. But it would have been so easy to just go with a supplement that didn't cost as much and didn't come from such a reputable company. We tried to pick the most reputable manufacturer that we could, that had the best ratings.
I did a ton of research in finding,
sure.
And before I even decided, I actually bought the product, took the product myself to see what effects it had on me.
Right. We both took it. And, we read reviews from legitimate reviews and so forth. But my point is, we tried to do that. But if we would have been all about the money, we could have gotten a pill
I could have gotten dirt
less for a filler pill.
Because the supplement industry, and I'm a certified personal trainer. I know a lot about nutrition. And so I could have easily bought a gel cap full of dirt, and because the supplement industry is non-regulated, it would have been perfectly legal for me to sell it. And I don't have to tell you it's dirt. It's just organic substance that will help you to get younger.
Yeah. And so if you can do really good marketing, get the premium label and so forth, um, there's just a lot of bad stuff out there. There's not a lot of integrity. So you have to be really, you have to be really careful. We even found with, with, um, buyer reviews can be bought. So, a lot of times you see these little reviews that are supposed to be by someone who took the product, and they just say, great, or you see a little sentence about it, and it seems like it's somebody from a foreign country that's trying to write their review in English. That's a good sign that it's a fake review.
Yeah. And, just sidetrack, rabbit hole here, because of advertising, we had a legitimate product that did very well, had tons of great reviews in our Amazon marketplace, was selling a ton of them at one time. I'm not an unethical marketer. However, whenever we got on the first page and when we came actually number one in our product, well, then we had unethical marketers. We was hurting their bottom line. And so they started paying people to write negative reviews, and they literally killed my business because they had deeper pockets than me. And I just simply refused to be unethical, and I wouldn't do the same thing. So, you can have a legitimate product, which we did, that was really great, get killed by unethical marketers. So it's important, bottom line, we're preaching to the choir, I think, or I hope, you just need to educate yourself and be respectful. Yeah. Look both ways, because, whether you're for or not for, people have some very strong opinions and concepts. And I'm not saying they're wrong, not saying they're right. There are some truth in that. We know people that took the vaccine and died. We know people that did not take the vaccine, got COVID, and died. There's truth on both sides, but it's a personal choice as to you making a decision is what you should do. And I don't think any government should mandate that. Okay.
Right. I see two issues going on primarily. First of all, we're, big believers in that it should be freedom of choice. And the second thing that's going on is the misinformation. People need the truth, the correct numbers, nothing being held back from them, nothing being skewed to, manipulate their thinking. We need the truth so that we can make an informed decision. I have an elderly aunt and uncle, and with the statistics, it was in their best interest. I have other people that with the statistics, they didn't just follow U.S. news. They followed reports, medical studies from other countries, and they decided, what, it's better for me not to. And thank God in our family, we respect each other's, views. We genuinely love each other, and believe that each person has to make a decision for themselves. There's different situations for different people.
Yeah.
I heard of, I hadn't even considered this, but there was a woman that was getting fertility drugs. She was taking fertility drugs, spending thousands of dollars to try to get pregnant. And she just did not feel like taking the vaccine would have been good for her. Her doctor didn't feel like her taking the vaccine while she was on the fertility drugs was a good idea. It's something I hadn't even thought about. But should that person be forced?
Yeah, and it's kind of like we have followers that have, and a lot of people that have had COVID. Well, once you have COVID, you have some natural antibodies. Okay. And those will help you. And, some say that those natural antibodies you have is better than actually taking the vaccine. So, should you take it if you've already had it? Well, I'm not a doctor and I can't even answer that. I would say check with your doctor, but then would your doctor give you the right information? Well, do your research and you find out whether you should or you shouldn't, right? So it's all a personal preference. And I think everyone should make their own decision. I mean, you got some people claiming it's the end of the world. It's the mark of the beast. I don't think I'd go that far, but It could be, I guess. But, the point is, hey, educate yourself and be respectful. And, me, it's kind of like, you know what? I think this whole COVID thing is worse than religion. A lot of people are believers and some aren't believers. You got religious fanatics that will push their beliefs on people, and then you got people that don't believe try to push their beliefs. Hey, religion, COVID, vaccines, it's a personal preference. If you believe, great. If you don't believe, great. But don't get mad at me for believing, right? So, it's just
Well, it's gonna
interesting.
divide the country.
Yeah, don't let this stuff cause you to pick a side and be divided and get ugly. Be respectful and really, love one another, treat one another with respect and kindness. It kind of goes back to that golden rule, right? Treat other people the way you want to be treated. I want to be treated nice, so I'm going to treat other people nice. If you dump on me, well, I'm still not going to dump on you, but you shouldn't dump on people. Treat them with respect. Just because, in other words, what I should say is just because someone dumps on you don't mean you should dump on them. Two wrongs don't make a right. We just believe in being respectful and loving everybody. And I'm the kind of guy, I'll give the shirt off my back to help you. Okay. Now, if you dump on me, I won't go out of my way to help you, but I'm not going to key your car or flatten your tires. I will never repay evil with evil. Okay.
But
So,
there's a fine line with everything. Sometimes depending on what the subject is, you kind of have to, do like you're saying, respect everybody's opinion. But every now and then, you have to take a stand on things. And right now it's kind of difficult with the vaccine thing to take a stand that to enforce, to other people because of all the misinformation. There are certain things that you know without a doubt. Well, it's hard for people to know without a doubt because of all the misinformation.
yeah. So give me, if I haven't answered your question, then please put your question in there. And remember, we want to try to keep everything as neutral. Don't want to go back and forth and making any statements that might aggravate or madden other people. And so, from time to time, I do delete something that it may be factual, but something that might cause an issue. So don't get upset if I delete your comment.
Yeah, we have our opinions, as I'm sure each one of you do, but this isn't necessarily the place to stand on those.
Right. It's okay to have your own, belief. And I believe in freedom of choice as long as your choice doesn't affect another person. So in other words, I got some common sense. It's like, well, freedom of choice. I'm going to go drive drunk. Well, no, that's going to affect other people, right? So if I want to get drunk, I'll get drunk in the safety of my own home. I don't get drunk because I think it's stupid. But if that's my choice to be stupid. Okay. So, and that's the reason I don't get drunk, because then I get stupid. I don't want to be stupid. So anyway. So, hey, let's take a quick look. And like Brian said, it was 72 hours for the negative COVID test, but now it is 24 hours. So yeah, Brian, when you do come down here, because I know Brian is coming down here real soon. Woohoo! Excited for Brian. He's coming to do his research in Costa Rica. So when you do come, just be prepared to have that COVID test 24 hours prior. But hey, it's not a big deal, because most of the airports now, you can get you a COVID test right there in the airport and you get your results back pretty quick. Okay. It's not a problem.
Yeah. And that's COVID test to go back to the country, go back to you.
That's right. And of course, it's different depending on what country you're going to. Okay.
But yeah, San Juan in San Jose has the rapid COVID test in the airport, and also the Liberia airport.
Yeah, you can, the tests are getting easier and easier, and it's a lot cheaper in the airport than some of the other places. That was a scam going on, in my opinion. Because you could go someplace and it cost you over $100, some places $60, and hey,
Well, there were different kinds of tests.
yeah,
too.
okay, and so
The rapid test cost a certain amount compared to the
and
there were different.
Yeah, and then found out that once it got to the airport, well, that kind of killed a lot of that stuff. Okay. Kelly M asked a good question. It says, what are they saying about the booster shots in Costa Rica? And I haven't heard a whole lot about what they're saying about the booster shots in Costa Rica. What Costa Rica is pushing is for everyone to have these,
Yeah, they're still pushing the original shots, not
yeah, they're not saying anything about the booster, which is the third shot. Right. Costa Rica has been saying, hey, get your vaccine. The two that they have, the two vaccines that they're pushing require you to have 2 shots, but I haven't been hearing hardly any news as far as the booster shot goes. Okay, so can't give you much info on that. I agree with Melissa here. It says it's time for humanity to come together regardless of labels. Okay. The fact that we are human is a common denominator. And I agree completely.
It's really a sad situation for humanity.
It is sad. And, and I feel like governments are trying to tear us apart and for their own agenda. Okay. So, I agree. Humanity needs to stand up and we don't need to be divided. We need to stand up and love one another and realize, hey, we're a human. Okay. And everything will be so much better. Did you hear that, Rebecca? I know you guys didn't hear that unless our mic is really good, but the monkeys sound like they're cutting up.
Yeah, it's coming from across the way.
Yeah, I think the monkeys probably want to get in the show. Wouldn't that be cool to have the monkeys back behind us, huh?
Yeah, that would be.
Okay, now Brian asked a question and said, I've had COVID back in August, but now he's good. And do I need anything special to come down? And as far as I understand, Brian, you don't need anything special to come down. I did find some research somewhere.
He's got to have his health insurance.
Well, he does have to have the normal stuff, but nothing special. I did read somewhere, and I can't remember where it was at. So I hate to repeat it, but somewhere it was saying that if you could prove you had COVID, which it wouldn't hurt for you to have this, and this is why I'm going to repeat it. Brian, if you have a statement from your doctor, then you could prove that you had COVID, then I think that's just kind of a help because then it shows that you already had COVID, which means you have the antibodies. There was one country, and I can't remember if it was Costa Rica or what, but one of them was saying, I think it might have been Panama. Anyway, one of them was saying that if you could show proof that you had COVID, then you didn't have to have the, I don't know whether it was a test or you didn't have to be quarantined. It was something like that. So my point is,
I hate that when we can't remember.
My point is that if you can show proof that you have it, it could benefit you in some way. So it wouldn't hurt to have that proof. Okay. But I haven't heard that you need anything special, Brian. That's my point. Okay.
But check with the U.S. Embassy. Where does Brian come from?
Brian comes from the United States.
Yeah, check the U.S. Embassy in Costa Rica website, and they should have the most recent requirements.
Yeah. And, Greg brings up a good point and says, Brian, hey, it doesn't hurt. It would be good for you to have a letter coming from your doctor saying that you're okay now. Okay.
Yeah, because unfortunately we have heard some stories of people having paperwork and some officer deciding that he might want to get a little bribe out of giving you a hard time.
I'm glad you brought that up, Rebecca. It does happen. Okay. So, if you get to Costa Rica and that's why you're watching this channel is to get the information. If you get to Costa Rica and something kind of smells fishy and the guy, is he could be trying to get a bribe. Okay. And I know when we first came to Costa Rica, because I'm an online marketer and work online, I had probably 5 or 6 computers that I was bringing with me. And one guy tried to give me a hard time. Okay. And it was when I was going through customs. And fortunately, I had a Tico that spoke English, and he was helping us. And of course, he was helping us get all our stuff because he wanted a tip. And I tipped him well, because when we were going through customs, the guy was giving me a hard time. I think he wanted a bribe. And the guy simply told him to leave me alone. I was an online marketer. I had explained it several times, and that he was setting up his business when he gets to Costa Rica. And that's why he's got 4 or 5 used computers, not old computers. And thank goodness to him, we were able to get through without any problems. Okay. So yeah, it's not uncommon for, people to get greedy because gringos got money. That's not true. We don't have any. So that's just like the whole vulture thing. We don't have any money. So anyway, but it's not uncommon to get someone trying to get a bribe. Okay. So just be careful.
Yeah. That's a good example how a lot of Ticos, and I suppose it's like this in other countries, anybody that watches American TV, they have a perception of Americans, I hate to say Americans because they get upset about that because they're Americans too. So people from the United States of America, they tend to think that we're like the people in the movies or the
rich and famous,
what
and
do you call those shows that it's
reality
live?
TV,
yeah, reality TV shows and things like that. That's where their perception, for a lot of them, that's where their perception is coming from, is from the TV.
Yeah, they were watching stuff on TV and they just automatically assume everybody in the United States has a lot of money. So anyway, here's a good question, because Kelly says, are masks required indoors everywhere? And yes, everywhere you go, you're required to have a mask indoors. Of course, unless you're eating. And even though it doesn't make sense, when you go from your car to the dining room table, you got to wear your mask, even though it's going to take me 2 minutes to go, whoops, see, I'm done, right? So yeah, you have to wear your mask indoors, okay? You sit down at a table, you can take it off, and you can enjoy your food, and you can cough and all of that. And I don't know why nobody gets sick while you're eating. I think maybe the food kind of keeps the germs down. I don't know. So anyway, yes, you're required to have masks everywhere that you go. It is a big thing. Outdoors, you don't have to have your mask. You can be walking on the street and there's 10, 20 people that you pass by, and you don't have to have a mask. But there are a lot of people are still wearing their mask. Yeah. So outdoors, you don't have to have a mask. Indoors, yes, you do. Okay.
And one good thing about Costa Rica is there's so much outdoors, so much outdoor activities, things to do. So much is done outdoors that, you can go maskless a lot.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. All right, so I'm looking through there, and I think I've answered all of the questions. If I haven't asked you questions, please put them in there. There's a lot of comments in here. All right. So, and now look, of course, we've been talking all about COVID and the requirements and all of that thing. So, hey, if you have other questions that's not related to COVID, hey, you're welcome to ask any of those as well. We're up here in the mountains. It's cool. We're in the cloud forest. We've got the clouds coming through here. We've got monkeys. We're building, and I hope you guys are enjoying the off-grid homestead videos that we're putting out there along with some of the other stuff. But we're having a whole lot of fun up here. So if you got questions, ask them. We're an open book. We try to be pretty transparent. Okay. Now, Free Spirit asks, is a medical exemption works there? And I'm not quite sure what you're asking there, so you might want to rephrase that that comment or that question, okay? Keto asks, how's the tiny house? Excuse me. Keto asks, how's the tiny house building going this week? And unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to do much building. I've been so busy kind of getting things all set up here. And right now, I am working on getting our water going. Now, if you've been following the building, we do have water, and we've been using the owner's water. The owner has a whole lot of water, but he wants me to have my own water because, he feels like he doesn't have enough water. So I've been going up the mountains, and you're going to see those videos soon. I've been going up the mountains to find a water source. And, that's something important that you need to know. Some of you folks want to do the same thing. Well, just how do you get water from a river? And so I'm going to be showing you exactly how you can do that. Okay. A lot of fun. I'm enjoying, I'm probably having way too much fun documenting and showing y'all all the stuff that I'm doing.
Nothing wrong with enjoying what you do.
Brian asked, "Where's the videos that you did on the Health Pass?" And if you'll take a look in the videos there, just put in Health Pass in the search bar, and it'll come up, and that'll show you real simple. That's a good question. We're Carrying Signs Now says, has the new tax incentive kicked in yet? And, I haven't heard yet. I've been looking because I've been waiting for that to kick in, and I haven't heard. I do understand it's going to take some time, but I haven't heard anything on that just yet. But as soon as we do hear, I'll let you know.
They passed it, right? And
they did pass it. The law's passed, and it's printed out in the LaGracia. But
the problem is the implementation.
Yeah, they got to get everybody together to implement all of this stuff, right? Oh, now SLM asks, can you drill a well? So, yeah, you can drill a well in Costa Rica. You do have a lot of bureaucratic tape that you have to jump through in order to do that. Now, one of the things that is different about drilling a well in the United States or drilling the well in the United States and drilling one in Costa Rica. In the United States, I've drilled wells before in the United States. If you drill a well in the United States, hey, your well, your water. You don't have to pay anything. In the United States, Costa Rica's like, you drilled a well, but it's still our water, and you still got to pay. So you could drill a well, and you're still going to have to pay for that water, okay? And so that's just something that you need to know about. It's not a lot of money, but you still pay monthly for the use of that water. Now, there's a lot of people that live in rural areas like us, and they have a water hose that comes out of a river or a creek, and they just enjoy free water.
But there could come a time
where
they're
not paying for it, but like you said,
because they've talked about doing that.
There could be a time where they make you pay for taking water out of the river, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there, right? Cross that bridge when we get there. Bridge, water, bridge, right? Anyway, yep, around my new place, Ville. Now, Jonathan asks, are there a lot of snakes where we're at? And no, it's not. There's not a lot of, there are some snakes, but there's not a lot of snakes. It's just cold up here. We're at over 4,700 feet, and it's just too cold for most of the snakes.
But they do have them. We've seen some. So
yeah.
I've seen two shed skins. So one on the road where we're walking, and one.
Yeah, I go all over the terrain, and Jonathan asked, well, how do you traverse the terrain while staying safe from critters? And I'm just supper. I go all across the terrains, and bugs eat me up.
Oh, yeah.
So matter of fact, I was coming up a mountain, and man, the mountain was kind of like this, and so I'm holding on with one hand, and there was this vine that has these nasty thorns, and so I'm going to cut this vine to get out of my way so I can pass. So I'm holding on with one hand, and I got this machete with the other hand, and I'm trying to keep from falling off the mountain. When I feel something, I look over at my finger, and this lizard is biting my finger. I'm like, dude, I'm holding on with one hand, and you're biting my finger. It was just he's a lizard like this. I don't know what kind of lizard he was, but he was a brave lizard. So, hey, bugs bite, but if you use off, I don't like to use chemicals, but if you use off, you won't have that many problems. Right now in the rainy season, got a lot of problems with horse flies, but really not a lot of mosquitoes, very little. We're up high in the mountain, so that's what's really cool about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alan doesn't wear, he's not concerned about things like that, but I I like to be precautious. I bought a pair of uh, snake shields. You can buy them from your knee down. Of course, he's always wearing. You wear those boots. What are those?
Yeah, I just wear
Work
some
boots.
work boots.
They
They're
have the
toe
steel
protection work boots. Now Rebecca is the master spider hunter. She looks at everything and she finds spiders all over the place. So she probably has broken the Guinness Book of World Records on the most spider kills in a day. So
Well, they're everywhere.
they are everywhere. And I've shown you some of the stuff that I have. I think I have a lot of spider bites. It's intentional. I'm building up my antibodies for the spider bites. So, and
But it would be wise to, if you're going to go traversing through the jungle, not on the trails like you do, trailblazing, to wear maybe snake shields.
yeah.
And of course, it helps that we have Nikki.
Yeah, we have Nikki. Nikki likes to go with me most of the time when I'm blazing through trails and stuff. She has a blast. We don't collect rainwater. Now that is one way that you can do it. And of course, in the rainy season, you'd have an unlimited supply of rainwater. But there's lots and lots of rivers here. And that's why I always say, if you're looking for properties, then find a property that you can have easy access to water or have water on your property. It makes you priceless. Okay. Kelly M says, what's happening with home prices? I've been, we're watching real estate all the time, and it looks like to me prices are dropping. You're still going to always have some of that crazy people who think they ought to get $1.5 million for a 2-bedroom nothing house, okay, and tiny lot, okay. But you're going to always have that. But there's once I get the new form going, I'm going to start putting more and more properties in there that are just unbelievable deals. Wow, I'm seeing some unbelievable deals that just blow me out of the water. Some really amazing deals where, in my opinion, you could not build it for the price that they're selling it. And in my opinion, that's a lot of gringos that are leaving for whatever reason, whether COVID situations, they're going home, because you want to spend the last couple of years with their family, but there's lots of properties that you can get for some unbelievable deals.
Building materials are really up, and the cost of just everything in general is up. The colonial is dropping in value against the dollar.
Yeah, everything is getting to be a lot more expensive. Because the Kelowna rate is dropped so much. It's kind of good for us, bad for the Ticos, right? But we are seeing an increase in general prices because the Kelowna rate is dropping so much. Keto says lavender oil is great for as a natural preventative for bugs. So that's a thought. I don't like chemicals, but hey, I might put some of that lavender oil on, right? Hey, SLM, you are absolutely right. She says, I swear there are almost invisible insects here that bite.
Yes, and they have a big bite. There's these little tiny black balls. I don't know. And they're like smaller than a pencil, or they're about the size of a
pencil mark.
Dot. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're perfectly round, and like it'll bite you, catch it like that, and it's a ball. And I've researched online trying to find. I can't find. So if anybody knows what
matter of fact, she will kill this thing, and like she said, it's got a big bite. Around. The only thing she's rolling around is a tooth, because
it must just be a giant tooth, because that thing will, man, it bites hard, huh?
Yeah. So, and we have a problem with them here inside this barn where we're living at right now. If you haven't seen the video that gives you a tour of our off-grid temporary home, you should really check it out. We are roughing it. Okay. And so we're inside this barn. And, when I'm out there working at nighttime, I never have these no-see-ums, as I call them. I don't have these no-see-ums bite me. But when it gets dark underneath here, man, these no-see-ums. Now, what we do is we have some little candles that we buy at Walmart, and it's citronella oil. And I have a lantern. As a matter of fact, let me grab that lantern. All right. So I got one of these, what you'd call an old timey lantern, and I fill it up with citronella oil, and I think it helps a whole lot. So I use that lantern, and when it starts getting dark, I turn it on. Citronella oil burns, and we use some little candles with citronella oil, and that helps. Keep some of those no-see-ums back. Not all of them, but it does help a whole lot.
And our mosquito nets help.
Yeah.
But, yeah, SLM, there are also some little bugs that have almost clear wings. They almost look like a fruit fly in shape and wing structure, same size as a fruit fly, but their wings are completely clear. They are the hardest things to kill, because you can't see them flying around, and they land on you. I don't feel when they land on me, and next thing I know, they have bitten me really, really hard.
Yeah.
But one good thing about those and the no-see-ums, they don't really leave a mark, don't leave a big bite or any,
yeah, you don't
kind of
swell up
raised
like an ant
area.
bite or
Yeah,
anything
you
like
just
that.
feel the
It's just
bite,
like,
and then it's
ow,
okay after that.
yeah. Atiko Soon asked and says, hey, have you heard anything or read anywhere about the incentive program for expats and the like, such as application and final details? Now, we have several videos that talk about those programs on our channel. So if you'll take a look on our channel, and on our channel, search Digital Nomad and search
New law passed.
proposed law passed, then you got lots of great information in those videos. Haven't heard any more updated information as far as when it's going to go into effect, but it will go into effect soon because it did pass. SLM says, Rebecca, try some peppermint oil in a diffusers. Insects hate that.
That's a good idea, and I do have some peppermint.
Yeah, matter of fact, we passed the store the other day that had a lot of oil, and you could buy a diffuser. So that's awesome. Kelly, thank you so much. Kelly donated and says, for integrity, apple juice, and tea for Rebecca.
You noticed my tea, huh?
So thank you so much. I'm looking at some of the questions here. Yeah, there's a lot of people that are kind of scared about the snakes. Really, I don't think you have to be scared about the snakes in Costa Rica. There's a lot of marketing, dramatization, in the snakes. But if you're going to go off trail like I'm doing near the coast, be careful. Man, I go all through the woods, and I'm in the middle of some stuff and never see a snake. Now, I'm not stupid. My eyes are wide open, and I'm looking, and I'm bushwhacking.
You're very observant, but
yeah, I'm very, very observant, unusually observant, and
when I go walk, I'm looking down, for foot placement, making sure I'm stepping on something solid, and I'm not really looking all around. So I don't like going trailblazing at all.
Yeah. I love.
I've done it with you, but
I mean,
I don't like it.
I'm a little bit on the crazy side. I'll go into places, and I'm always careful. But I have even gone into caves, but I'll bring a chain or a rope, and I'm careful. But so I'm a little bit on the crazy, adventurous side, and I love to go check out things. But I'm always more careful. But I'm very adventurous. So. But I am in great shape, and so I won't do something stupid.
That's perspective, though, because
she thinks some of the things I do is stupid.
Yeah, going into a cave that you don't know what's in there, that's not very bright to me. That's just not smart.
Quito asked if we had Cootie up here. Yeah, Cootie's a shy creature. Let's see, do you have hungry Cootie up there in the mountains? Of course, she might be. Oh, hungry Cootie. She might be talking about something else. I'm talking about our Cootie cat. Yeah, our Cootie cat. I call my cat Cootie. She's shy around people, and she's always begging for food. She leads me to the bowl. But I know she's talking about. She's talking about the peyote. What are those things called? Peyotes.
I can't remember the name of them. They're cute though.
They're really
between a raccoon and a maybe.
And a monkey or something, got a long tail. Pazotes.
Yeah, Pazotes.
I think she's talking about Pazotes. I haven't seen any here, but I know there are some Pazotes. Let's see.
I mean,
No. I did see some Pazotes.
Yeah, we saw Mama with some babies cross the path.
Yeah, matter of fact, Nikki and I have been hiking and crossed some Pazotes, and poor Nikki thinks she ought to go race them. I'm faster than you. So, yeah, there are some cute Pazotes here. Haven't seen any right here, just whenever I've been hiking up to the antenna and stuff. So we've got some Pazotes.
Yeah, I think the only thing wild that we've seen right up next to where we're building has been the monkeys, huh?
Yeah, the monkeys have been the things that have come the closest.
When we
yeah.
Walk, when we go walk the land. But...
Yeah. Doug says those Pazotes can be mean and they climb ladders. Yeah, I can see that they would do that. Bonnie asked, "Are we near any other neighbors or expats?" And no, I don't think we have expats for miles and miles and miles away, and little to no neighbors in our area. So we're very, very, very remote. And, the closest electric line is about 10 kilometers away. There's no cell phone service. Although the other day we were going into town and they are putting up a new cell tower. Now, I don't know whether it's going to reach us or not, but they are putting up a cell tower. So, hey, who knows?
It would be nice to have that as a backup.
Yeah, it would be kind of nice to have a backup, because now if our internet goes down or something, then, I have to actually hike about 6 kilometers, and I have this tiny signal to where I can send a message and I can ask my provider if the service is down on their end or if it's on my end, but we're very, very remote. Keto says, she's heard that unhealthy sloths can have a problem with ticks and things. And I don't know if that has anything to do with unhealthy sloths, but sloths, they move so slow. They have a whole ecosystem thriving within their fur because that's just the nature of sloths. Okay. So that's just something that you need to know about. Sloths have a whole ecosystem in them.
They recommend not, if you come across one, not cuddle them with it or anything.
That's it. Yeah, SLM says there's bunches of expats in the San Ramon area and also in antennas, and we came to Costa Rica, and we, if I wanted to be around expats, I think I'd have stayed in the United States. And so we purposely have gone into some very remote areas so that we can experience Costa Rica, Yeah.
Well, things also, we wanted to be remote because we're kind of particular. Things like other people's loud music bothers us. People burning their trash, their poo-poo paper, and the smoke coming our way bothers us. Just things like that. We've lived in one place where the neighbors had cows, and I didn't know cows could be that noisy. But those cows all day, all night. Yeah, and when you're trying to, make business phone calls, because we still work, even though it's online, we have to be somewhat professional. And the cows and the roosters in the background was a distraction. It's also bad for making videos. But anyway, in that particular case, we didn't go complain. But we had other neighbors go and complain, and the people actually moved their cows. But if we would have been the only neighbors, I don't think they would have.
Right.
And if we would have been the only one saying something, it may not.
Well, we like the remote areas. I mean, we lived in one house where, believe it or not, I had a clothesline in my backyard, and the neighbor would bring his fighting roosters and put them on my clothesline. What?
Yeah.
So, and this dude would wake up at sunrise, put the roosters in my backyard, and I get to wake up by the roosters every morning. That's crazy.
And see, that's something that's not legal in Costa Rica, but that's another one of those things that
nobody's enforcing,
because it's not legal, but they still do it. And I love animals, and even a rooster, I don't want to see it fighting and being hurt or anything like that. That was really distressful for me to see that poor rooster up on that line, and sometimes he was all beat up, and that was distressful for me. So we didn't stay there long.
Yeah, we didn't stay there long, thank goodness. Now, Quito asked a good question. It says, what size is your cargo trailer, and are they expensive and hard to find there? Yes, very, very few people in Costa Rica have actual trailers, cargo trailers that pull behind your vehicle. I actually built my own trailer because it's just not something you can find. And if you find one, they're going to want a fortune for it, okay? And it's not going to be very strong. Okay, so you can find places and you can pay places to build them for you. Okay, but yeah, it's very difficult to find a cargo trailer in Costa Rica.
We do see them, but it's rare.
Yeah, it's rare. It's rare. Even when I'm driving around San Jose, you don't find them. And you know, in the United States, every single cargo trailer or trailer has a license plate. Costa Rica, that's not required yet. Eventually, they're going to catch on, and they're going to require them to have a license plate too and an inspection sticker. But it doesn't happen right now. Now, hey, Don asked a really great question. It says he's moving down at the end of the year. How long did it take you all to get adjusted to the slower lifestyle compared to the U.S.? I still ain't adjusted. I want it now.
I adjusted right away. I think I've been Tika.
Yeah, I think Rebecca has always been Tika. It really depends on your personality. You know, my personality, I'm very punctual. I'm 15 minutes early or I'm late. Okay, if you're not 15 minutes early, you're late. But I've had to really adjust. I've had to really adjust.
You're still adjusting, like you said, because you know, you get into different situations, like buying building materials, you know, having to shop for that, having to try to find the internet, you know, those things challenged you recently compared to the different challenges that we had before, you know.
That's right. There's different challenges, you know. I want things to be done to the best of my ability. And I remember we were renting one house and I went and it didn't have any screens and there the kind of bugs were bad. So I wanted to get screens on it. I actually went to a screen shop and asked the guy to come out and give me a quote on screens. Well, he comes out and he measures and he pretty much gets the same size for all windows. And I says, now look, the windows are here and they actually have a place for the screens. And I want you to measure each window because I want the screen to be in the track where it belongs. And I'm going to pay you because I know every window is going to be a little bit different. But he said, no, in Costa Rica, they'll get one size and they'll put it on the outside of the window and bolt it down to the wall. So it's not done right, but it's functional. But it's not done right. I'm like, no. I don't want that. I want it to be done right, and I will pay you to do it. He's like, no, don't want it.
Yeah, and explain why the windows are different sizes. Now, these aren't, you know, big fancy houses that cost a lot of money, although it might be like that in those too. But we're talking about just
a regular Tico house.
Tico house that's made out of the cement slabs. Every window is different because they don't buy. I don't know how they do that. They I do see some pre-made windows, but the openings are not all the same.
The openings are not all the same, and so
they like shimmy, you know, put some things to enclose it to make it fit right. But in some cases, they build the frame and then put the window in it. So the frame that's surrounding the purchased window is not the, you know, they're different sizes from one window to the next because they're just handmade according to however the little concrete slabs were put together. And so yeah, they put the windows, the screens on the. If a house even has screens,
most houses don't have screens. Most houses don't have any screens. I wanted screens, and he's like, no, you know, if I can't do a trashy job on it, I don't want to do a right job on it. He just wasn't going to do it, you know, and I was going to pay him to do it right, but he just he didn't want it, you know.
And things like that do bother me, and of course I don't have to deal with it as much as Alan does, but I'm a pretty laid back person, you know. Being 5 minutes late was never a big issue for me, even though I know that that's not the way to be. You should be 15 minutes early. But I'm a little more laid back, so things like that didn't bother me too much. But there are things, even though I'm laid back, things that get on my nerves,
Yeah.
like people stopping in the street to talk and not letting the cars pass. And I'm talking about there might be 3-4 cars backed up, and they're still going to have their
They're gonna have their conversation.
And when they're done, then they move on and you pass. It's just kind of accepted.
Yeah.
People don't pull off the side of the road to run into the store to get something, or just, we'll see people, on their cell phone, and they are in the road or maybe a little bit off the road, even though there's place. We excuse a lot of it because there are no shoulders. But there are driveways, and my goodness, in front of a grocery store when there's parking.
When there's
not pull into the grocery store.
Yeah,
parking lot.
it's one of the things that's maddening to me. It's like you pull off the road and you're in the middle of the road. You're stopping. You're not even going to put on your flashers, and you're texting. I'm like, there's a parking lot. Why don't you pull into the parking lot? And cars behind them.
They don't even blow the horn, though.
No, some do.
I mean, every now and then, but it's accepted here.
It's very accepted.
I mean, think about it. Hardly anybody. We're thinking about blowing the horn, but we actually don't, because it's not what you do here.
And it all depends. I'm talking about the one woman that parked right across from McDonald's and Lufers, and it was only two lanes of traffic. People were going nuts, and she didn't care.
That was a 4-lane road, and this woman is stopped for McDonald's in one of the 4 lanes.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So it's crazy, but it's like it's kind of accepted. People will just wait patiently behind a car that could have pulled over into a driveway or something. They don't blow their horn or anything.
Now, Bill asked the question, what kind of driver's license you need to drive a quad or a small scooter? And it is a little different driver's license, but you're just going to get a regular driver's license. However, the important thing is you won't get a Costa Rican driver's license until you get a residency. Okay, so you need to make sure that your driver's license from your company has that motorcycle endorsement on it. Okay, so like my driver's license has an M on it. That's a motorcycle endorsement, which says that I can drive a motorcycle. So it's important that your driver's license has that motorcycle endorsement. You can use that driver's license indefinitely, as long as it's not expired, okay, until you become a resident of Costa Rica, and you can get a Costa Rican driver's license. So I hope that answered your question.
As long as you do your 90-day stamp out.
Yeah, SLM says, it seems like drivers in Costa Rica have their own law, and you're right. And there's the things that we see happening is against the law, but there's nobody there to enforce it. There's not enough police to enforce all of the driving laws that are broken on a constant daily basis. Okay. And of course, Tico Soon says, was it a cultural shock for you guys at first? And it was a huge cultural shock for Rebecca. I've traveled to other countries, and so it wasn't a cultural shock for me. It just drives me mad because of my personality when people do things that I think are not considerate to other people. It's things that are inconsiderate. And dangerous.
Parking on the wrong side of the road and then having your brights flashing into the oncoming traffic.
Yeah.
That's just not safe. Yeah. But I did go through culture shock because I'd not traveled outside of the US other than to go on a couple of cruises that we went to. We went to the Bahamas and I think the Cayman Islands. So Costa Rica was my first big, out of the United States experience.
Yeah, it was a big cultural shock for her, But hey, normally if you have a cultural shock, a couple of weeks you begin to adapt, and it wasn't so bad, huh?
Yeah. So bad.
So after a couple of weeks, it does take you a little bit of time to kind of get used to some things.
Really
some things you may never get used to. There are some things that I don't think I'll ever get used to. I just have to accept that it is what it is. And if you don't like it, go home, gringo.
Yeah. But
don't complain about it.
The people are very nice, and there's so much good that I quickly got over things. But what really hit me is I would see pictures everything that I saw before coming here was so beautiful. So
It was marketing. Goes back to what we said earlier.
exactly,
All of that fake marketing.
everything was manicured and nice. And then of course it didn't help that we went initially, you know, upon arrival, drove straight to the southern part of Costa Rica that has only been developed over the last 50, 60 years. And it's not a tourist, you know, spot. So most of the pictures that I was seeing before coming here were of tourist destinations.
Yeah.
And so everything was really,
That was
really nice.
pristine and beautiful.
Right. And so we get off the plane and drive for 8 hours straight and arrive in San Vito, which is a sweet, sweet area. However, man, everything was mixed matched. I'm not an eclectic person.
Yeah.
I don't like that. There was rusted tin everywhere. So I can't even describe it. So
yeah. Now Quito asked, let me see. Who was it? Yeah, Quito asked, is there a problem renewing your driver's license from the USA? And also, how do you insure your vehicles? Okay, so all of the vehicles have mandatory insurance on them. It's called Marchamo. So when you buy it, you renew the Marchamo every year. It's fairly cheap. It all depends on the value of your vehicle. Okay, so your vehicles are insured through Marchamo, which is Costa Rica. Okay, now renewing your driver's license is going to be dependent on the state that you're from. You want to make sure your driver's license, you know, for us, you know, some driver's license in Louisiana, they have a little thing on the back where you can renew it one time through the mail. Okay, great, no problem. Or online. So, but in a lot of states, you have to travel back to the United States to renew it. And you have to have proof of residence in the United States. So you have to make sure that you understand what are the requirements based on your law, based on your driver's license. You know, I know there's a lot of states that you get a driver's license and it doesn't expire until you're like 60. Okay. And so you don't have to worry about getting it renewed. But in Louisiana, our driver's license expires every 4 or 6 years. And it may have gone to 4 years now, but used to, it was 4 and 8, or something like that. But so you have to understand your own state's requirements. Okay.
Yeah, the first time we had to renew, we were able to do it online. It was no problem. Of course, we did it from here. The second time, it was getting close to renewal. I tried to renew online, and they told me that we weren't eligible for online renewal this time, that it had to be renewed in person. So no problem. We were going back to the United States. So while we were there in Louisiana, Alan went in to renew his license, and because it was due, mine wasn't due yet. And I wanted to renew it because I didn't know when the next time we were going to be in Louisiana would be. So, but they didn't allow me to, because they only allowed, it had to be within 6 months of your renewal date. I was trying to renew it at 7 months. And so we ended up staying a little bit longer for me to actually renew it while we were there. So anyway, the point is, check the requirements of your state or your country.
Yeah. Kelly M asked a good question. It says, is there good veterinarian care? And yes, we find there's really good veterinarian care.
Yes.
Of course, you got to do a little bit of research. But you know, Costa Rica is pretty big on, they do have veterinarian care. I don't think Costa Ricans, and that's not everybody, but as a majority, you know, everybody has a dog. A lot of them are tied up, and a lot of them are on leashes, you know, if they don't have a fence. And, you know, it's just, you know, are on chains, and it's terrible. But they do have veterinarian care for those people that can afford to pay good money to take care of their pets. You know, Costa Ricans really, when they see a dog, it's like it's just a dog. When they have a horse, it's just a horse. You know, I know a guy, I was talking to him the other day, know him real well. I saw him come down with his horse, and I just immediately said, hey, what's your horse's name? And he's like, no name. He's been having a horse for 10 years. No name. What do you just, hey, horse? You know, you know, yeah, I guess Americans, we're big. I got a horse a couple of years ago, and I called her Honey. Rebecca wanted to call her Honey, so we called her Honey. And now whenever we walk by Honey, I bring bananas, and I'm like, hey, Honey. And boy, she goes, huh? I got a banana. And she loves the bananas, you know. So you know,
But again, that's in this particular area, and we always have this discussion. He says that I you know, it's like using words always and never. Okay, so that is how it's true what he's saying. These people right here, it's no big deal, about their dogs and their horses and their cows and so forth. But it's not like that all over the place.
No, there
There
are some.
people that have
There
cute
are.
little dogs and they take them to get them groomed.
It's not many, but there are some wealthier Ticos that have money that bring their dogs, but it's not many, So as a generalization, guess what? As a generalization, most Ticos don't have near the money you and I have, but there are some wealthy Ticos. It's a generalization. But yep, there are a few Ticos that have money that do take good care of their animals. It's just not the norm like it is in the United States. The United States, we kind of go crazy about our fur pets, our fur children, and we really spend a lot of money on it.
Yeah. But okay, like the vet that I take Nikki and Cutie to, they have a grooming department, a grooming section. So they apparently have enough customers to have that grooming section. So, and when you were saying like Tico's not having money like we do, we don't have a lot of money, but in comparison to them, we do, because we're able to afford to have a dog. We're able to get the flea and tick medication and get the shots and the food and everything. That's a huge expense that we kind of we don't count that as being wealthy, but you know what, a lot of people can't afford that, and so they see that we are able to afford that,
and so then they naturally think, for example, here's a really good example. We have hot water. We're probably the only people in 20 miles that have hot water. Okay. And that's simply because, Ticos, they don't mind taking a cold shower. And well, you know what, to have a hot water tank like I have, because in this area, like I told you, it's probably 10 miles or 10 kilometers to the closest electric line. Well, if they don't have electric, then they don't have the standard suicide shower that takes a lot of electricity. So, and they might be generating a little bit of electricity from maybe one solar panel, or they might have a Pelton in the river, but it's not enough electricity to plug in a rice pot. Not enough electricity for a suicide shower. So they're taking cold showers. Well, if I have an instant hot water tank that costs me 200,000 colones, then they're like, you got too much money, gringo.
Right.
Well,
and see, to us, we don't have that much money, but look, we have a car, we have a motorcycle, we have a laptop and, appliances. So to somebody who doesn't have those things, we look like we're rich.
Yeah. So, it's all in how you look at it, and we don't have a whole lot of money, but you know what? I'm going to go do what I got to do to have hot water, because I just can't stand a cold shower. So I guess it's all in what's very important to you. And I showed my neighbor my hot water, and I says, hey, why don't you get hot water? And he's like, it's just not important. He's been taking a cold shower his entire life. And, he don't care to have a hot water. He definitely ain't gonna spend no 200,000 colones on hot water, when you know what, most farmers out here, they might be lucky to be living on $200 a month. Okay,
I tell you what, they are rich in land.
They're rich in land.
Yeah, because while
they're rich in family, they're rich in relationships.
All those things. Yeah, in community. We don't have a lot of neighbors, and they're not close, but we do have some. But they live on these huge tracts of land.
Yeah,
and they have cattle and stuff, and so
yeah. Now here's a good question from Zen Maiden. It says, how do you renew your prescriptions in Costa Rica that you bring down from the U.S.? Any ideas? So really, it's really easy. In a lot of things in Costa Rica, you don't even have to have a prescription for. So a lot of things that you're required to have a prescription for in the United States, you don't have to have a prescription here. However, if you do run into something where you are required to have a prescription, you can go see a doctor at the clinic, and it's usually very cheap. And they'll get you a prescription for it. So it's very easy to do. Yeah. So
when we first arrived, I was taking a prescription that in the States I had to have an annual visit to renew, to have it so that you could fill it monthly. And when I came here, that was a concern, but it turned out I didn't have to have a doctor's prescription. This was something that you could just walk into the pharmacy and get it. You could buy, I could buy 6 months in advance if I wanted to. So don't.
But in
take
the
it
United
anymore.
States, you couldn't get but 1 month, huh?
1 month at a time,
Right.
and after a year you had to get it renewed. But don't have to take it anymore. But when we do need something like some antibiotics and stuff, you can just go to the pharmacy. Like when he had that bite on his arm that he showed in one of the videos, it looked horrible. He just went to the pharmacy and showed it to him and told him what he thought that it was, and they gave him an antibiotic.
Yeah.
But and even things like muscle relaxers, I forgot, they have a list online. If you research that, what medications are available over the counter in Costa Rica. You might have to put a VPN on, but to get the information.
Yeah.
But like Alan was saying, yeah, just go to the doctors here, and they now this is something to consider. Okay, while they have medications here, they may not have the selection. Like, let's say you're on a heart medication and you take this certain kind that you've been taking and you have good results. You might want to check before coming here that they do sell that particular heart medication, because what we've heard from other people is, whereas there might be 40 different types of heart pills available in the US, they might have 5 different brands of heart pills.
Yeah, but I feel
I'm just using that as an example, but that's really with anything. And you know how it goes. If you switch from one maker to the other, sometimes there could be problems. So that is something to consider before moving. Is something you'd want to research and find out.
Absolutely. Now, another quick question here that came through that I thought was important. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, you can bring your box of medication to the pharmacy, and they'll see the box and say you want another one just like it, and they'll get it to you. A question here from Jonathan says, is your on-demand hot water tank run only from your solar panel? So I should mention that my instant hot water tank is gas power, so it runs off of propane. So it doesn't use the solar panels at all. It would take way too much power. If I had enough solar panels, if I had enough batteries, yes, I could run an electric instant hot water tank off of my solar panels, but my instant hot water tank is run off of gas. So I don't even need electricity. It has 2 batteries in there that ignite the flame and uses the instant hot water tank off of propane. Okay. All right. Hey, we've been going a little over 2 hours now. I think this is the longest one we've ever had, 2 hours and almost 15 minutes. So we should probably shut it down. I'm having a great time, but hey, we don't like to go too terribly long. We know your time is valuable, and but hey, we want to say thank you so very much. If you have any last minute questions that you're just dying to know about, because we love these live shows, and we could go on and on and on and on. But the fact is that when people see these recordings in like 2 hours and 15 minutes, I ain't watching that.
Yeah, a lot of times I cut my story short.
Yeah, because
I could go into, women and men communicate differently. I could go into so much detail.
Just the facts, ma'am. So, we love it. But hey, anyway, some people say, well, some people say, Alan, you ought to let Rebecca talk some. Well, most of the time, Rebecca don't have a lot to say. But when she does have something to say, she can go on and on and on about it, Yeah. So anyway, we do have a lot of fun.
Something for myself, or I'm passionate about something, I like to talk about it.
So, all right, folks. Hey, we greatly appreciate it. Thank you, everybody that did donate to us, that hit that dollar sign. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. We really do. For all those that are premium members of our forum, we really greatly appreciate you. Thank you so much for giving every month. And you can be a premium forum. The links are all down in the description, and you can cancel at any time, okay? So you don't have to always give. But we do greatly appreciate you. We do work very hard to give you accurate information. We greatly appreciate it. Guys, until next time, hey, I can't wait to share with you what we're doing because we're living in Costa Rica and we're building our off-grid homestead. So if you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button. We've had lots of people here, and I think only 43 likes. Take a moment, hit the like button, hit the subscribe.
It helps us with the YouTube.
It does. The
algorithms.
algorithm pushes it out there so that other people just like you can get this information. And so once again, we just want to say thank you. We'll see you next week. Whether it's a video or a live, we'll see you again. Y'all enjoy.